Hey, welcome to Optimize Your Body with Martin Silva, where we talk raw, uncut facts to truly help you optimize your body.
Hey guys and girls, thank you for tuning in. It's just me today, and I'm going to be simplifying matters and talking to you about how to build your hamstrings and your glutes, okay? So the back of your thigh muscles, especially where, if you just picture this now, the back of your thigh at the top where it connects onto your bum muscle, right? They call it the hamstring tie or the hamstring glute tie. That is where your hamstring attaches on to the bum muscle, right at the top of the back of your thigh. And the bum muscle area, the bum region in general, that area of the hamstring, so the top of the hamstring and the glutes, are normally underactive, or should I say sleepy with some people, right? We call it sleepy glutes, because a lot of people have sleepy, especially the glute medius, without going too much into that, but people's bum muscles are underactive and they're disconnected from these areas, right? So a lot of people have been messaging me on Instagram and stuff, just asking me for advice, so I thought I'd just do a quick podcast. I've already got a really good episode which I'd recommend listening to, which is just specialized for anyone who's looking to build their booty. So anyone who's trying to build their glutes. Lots of knowledge bombs in that one. That is just specific to building a booty, right? Now a lot of women are looking for this, this kind of looking to work on this area now, right? The booty, and build a big glutes and, the beach body kind of look, so like small, even if you don't make your waist any smaller by following your nutrition and whatnot, just by building your glutes, ladies, it actually gives the illusion that you've got a smaller waist, right? So it's going to give you more of that beach body look either way when you start connecting and activating your glutes properly, your bum muscles, and the hamstring tie, as I say, where the hamstrings connect onto the glutes and the hip at the top there. So yeah, I've trained so many people in my time, and nowadays more than ever, I find people are disconnected from, the whole posterior chain, so the back side of the body, the back muscles, certain parts of the back muscles, like I said, the bum muscles, the hamstrings. People don't know how to connect properly to these areas and actually activate these muscles effectively to build them and build a proportionate physique. So a lot of people are kind of quad dominant. People I train, the muscles on the front of the thighs are dominant. So whenever they are doing, deadlift, squats, those kind of things, they are over stimulating those muscles, the quads, and not quite engaging properly with the hamstrings and the bum muscles. So they end up with a disproportionate physique, and they're always scratching their head as to why they haven't, got, their booty, the glutes, the hamstrings are just not growing at the rate other body parts are. And I'm about to help you with this now, right? So a lot of you listening might think, oh, okay, I already know what I'm doing. I'm already getting good results. My bum muscles, my hamstrings are in proportion. They're growing. They look good. But the bottom line is, I can pretty much guarantee most people listening to this are not getting the full maximum benefits from targeting these areas, and they're not getting the results they deserve, because you may not be doing one or two things which are really, really absolute game changers. The funny thing about lifting weights, especially when it comes to the fundamental lifts such as squats, deadlifts, those kind of things, little tweaks can make all the difference in terms of your gains. So most people get it wrong, okay? So when it comes to activating the muscles we're talking about here, hinging from the hips is very, very important, right? So when you're about to perform a deadlift, again, some of you listening might actually not even you might not do deadlifts and good mornings and those kind of exercises regular. Maybe you don't even lift weights, but I'm about to simplify it for you anyway. So most people don't hinge from they can't hinge from the hips with good form, right? So what I mean by that is just tilting from the hips. So luckily I have a YouTube video which I'm going to add a link to this podcast thing for you anyway, a short 2-minute video teaching you exactly what I'm talking about now. But tilting from the hips and hinging from the hips is very important. So if you're doing a deadlift, so just visualize this now. I'm guessing most of you know what a deadlift is. when you're lifting that bar from the ground, you need to be tilting from the hips initially to fully activate those hamstrings and glutes, right? So instead of squatting down, it goes without saying that you need to have a neutral spine, so to speak, or your back needs to be straight, especially the lower back, and your core muscles need to be engaged to a certain extent as well, right? So a little disclaimer here, right? If you're doing deadlifts for the first time now after listening to this, remember, around about the first 6 inches, when you're lifting that bar from the ground, those first 6 inches of the movement where you're pulling it from the ground are critical, right? So you need to make sure your form is nigh on perfect so you don't injure yourself or get any major imbalances, right? So going back to the hip hinge, you need to tilt from the hips, right? So when you're lifting that bar from the ground, make sure you're not squatting too much, which is a common mistake I see a lot of people making. Make sure you're tilting from the hips. But anyway, you're going to get more info out of the videos anyway, because it's going to be, you can actually see the visuals then, and it's going to be more effective for you. But yeah, you shouldn't feel it on your back. Just make sure you don't squat too much, right? So that's a common mistake I see a lot of people doing, squatting down way too much, overactivating the quads. Okay, so you need to learn how to hinge from the hips. So you're tilting forward from the hips, and you're keeping the core nice and strong as well. So always remember, you've got to activate your core when you're pulling that bar from the ground. It's another, the mind-muscle connection to the core is very, very important. So yeah, just going on to my top 3 exercises for you now, folks, right? Which, again, you can check out these videos. But good mornings are my favorite. So you got the bar on your shoulders. Okay, picture this, you got the bar on your shoulders, your feet are just outside shoulder width, and again, you're hinging from the hips. So you're keeping your knees soft, and you're pushing your bum right back, so you're hinging from your hips, sitting back on your heels. So all that tension is in the hamstrings and the bum muscles. But this is my number 1 exercise, and I know every single person listening to this podcast episode needs to be doing this exercise, okay? But it's very, very technical. So coming to the next one now, single leg deadlifts with dumbbells, ideally. So you're balancing on one leg. Now, most people don't tend to do this very often, unilateral movements where you're doing like a single leg or single arm. So balancing on one leg, 2 dumbbells in your hands, and again, hip hinging, right? So all of these exercises I'm mentioning now involve the hip hinge, where you have to tilt forward from your hips without squatting, okay? So a single leg deadlift, literally 2 dumbbells in your hands, tilting forward from the hips, getting all that tension in your hamstring and glutes. It's really good for you to learn how to connect not only to those weak, I can pretty much guarantee most people do have, listen to this, slightly weak glutes and hamstring muscles. So learning how to connect to each side individually by doing one leg at a time is really, really important. So those 2 are my favorites, and then not in no particular order, the third one I've got on there is just good old-fashioned Romanian deadlifts. So it's the same thing, but with a bar. You're using both. Your feet are going to be about hip width, and you're hinging from the hips again. So it's always the same outcome here, right? The hip hinge with a decent amount of weight, not even having a heavy weight though, so I'm going to go back on that. A light weight to start with, and just focus on tension. Remember, your muscles have no idea. Your muscles are dumb, right? They have no idea how much weight you're lifting, but what they do know is how much attention you apply to those muscles, and that's what's going to make them grow and develop, right? So don't worry about going too heavy with the weights, but those 3 are my top 3 exercises: good mornings, Romanian deadlifts, or stiff leg deadlifts, and single leg Romanian deadlifts. So they're all the same kind of movements, but game changers, right? So forget about all the namby-pamby movements using machines for now, and focus on mastering that hip hinge, and watch what happens within the space of weeks. Your hamstrings and glutes will develop massively, and you'll be more connected to the backside of your body, which is a good thing, because most of us are pretty disconnected to the posterior chain. So activation is key, right? It's key. So what I would say is, prior to doing these movements, mobility is vital. Once again, you can check out my YouTube channel. I have 2 mobility videos on there, which is me doing these 2 routines, which you should do prior to every workout. It takes about 10-15 minutes, but game changer, once again. So important for you to to really activate those muscles and prime your nervous system. So do the mobility movements, right? But for example, before you do those good mornings, like you're going to hopefully watch that 2-minute video now, I'm linking to the show notes, teaching you how to do the hip hinge, okay, and the good mornings. So before you do those good mornings, okay, get yourself a broom or a stick and practice those good mornings with the stick on your shoulders instead of putting the bar on your back straight away. Because bear in mind, the bar you're going to be using, if you're using an Olympic bar, which you find in most gyms, yeah, especially if you're using the squat rack, it's going to be an Olympic bar which weighs 20 kilos. Now that for most people is going to be too much weight for you to get started. Seriously, for you to do it properly and focus on that connection, it's going to be a little bit too much weight. So use the broom, get it on your shoulders, practice tilting from the hips. Okay, now remember, there's more to it than just tilting from the hips. You're tilting forward. I'm not going to go too much into that, right, and try teaching you because you're going to watch the videos, right? I'm getting carried away here. But yeah, if you do a minute to 2 minutes, right, with the broom on your back, okay, as one of your mobility drills for the hips, and just practice with that. And then once you've done that, before you go into those good mornings with a bar, do some pelvic floor bridges. Once again, this is linked in my exercise library. If you type in floor bridge or pelvic floor bridge, you'll have a tutorial from me teaching you how to do that. So lying on your back on the floor, legs bent, stomach drawn in, and just lifting your hips off the ground and squeezing your bum muscles, right? So switching on your core and your bum muscles by doing the pelvic floor bridge. Do anything from like 1 to 3 sets of maybe 10 to 15 reps just to engage those bum muscles and core, and then straight into the good mornings, and boom, off you go. So yeah, so activation is key, and that's it in a nutshell. So yeah, I just thought I'd simplify it for you folks and just stress to you how important it is to learn how to do that hip hinge. And it's also very important for squats as well, and for every single functional movement in life going forward as we get older. You know, when you're picking things up off the ground and, you know, just general day-to-day life. Most people I've encountered who've been injured has been from doing something stupid like picking something light up off the ground or a pen off a desk, from where firstly they haven't started working on core stability and strengthening those core muscles. But just equally as important is the hip hinge. People they haven't got strong enough glutes and hamstrings for a start, and they're not accustomed to tilting from the hips and activating that posterior chain. Normally people are just bending over with a rounded back, picking things up, and overstressing the lower back, you know, on a daily basis. So very, very important that you apply some of the stuff I've mentioned to you now. These things are at the top of the list when it comes to lifting weights, right? Activating the muscles we've been talking about, right? And if you're listening to this and you're not a member of a gym, or you don't use gyms regular, and you're thinking, well, I'm not a member of a gym, I'd like to do this, you know, is there anything I can do without a gym? There is, but obviously you're going to need to get your bang for your buck and actually get good sustainable results. You need a gym. But at home, you know, if you want to build your booty and your hamstrings, or just generally want to get some results in terms of shaping your body and you know, sculpting your physique, then by all means do some bodyweight stuff. Focus, do the mobility routine I've showed you, because this is where the discipline is, folks, right? Lifting weights is the fun part. Honestly, it really is the fun part. The mobility is the part which takes discipline, because it's not as pretty, it's not as fancy. But when you start doing that, that's when you really start building muscle and improving how your body moves. So you can do the mobility routine at home, and then just focus on doing some squats. Maybe get yourself a resistance band and just follow one of my band routines on my YouTube channel. Okay, so if you want to do this without any equipment, then just focus on doing squats on a daily basis, practicing that hip hinge movement, right? So, you know, just doing it at home, maybe just the single leg deadlift, for example, just balance on one leg and do it without dumbbells. Just tilt forward from the hips and maybe touch your toe. So again, you're going to get all the visuals from the videos. So you can learn how to build muscle without a gym, but that's not going to last long. You're looking at literally 3 or 4 weeks. If you haven't been doing any training, for about 3 or 4 weeks, you'll get results, and then you will plateau without actually using a decent amount of resistance, hence lifting weights. So yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, right, go and get some freebies. Head over to my website, www.martin-silva.co.uk, And as soon as you enter the website, as soon as you actually go onto the landing page, you'll get a pop-up box, and all you've got to do is just sign up for my free newsletters, and you'll get a free ebook. You can get your free vegan recipe ebook if you're a vegan. Even if you're not, there's some good recipes in there, and also your free recipe ebook, which is like got 30 different recipes in there. Really healthy, easy to make meals, which are going to help you get lean and mean. Also, you need to go subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. So don't forget, when you click, if you do go and check out these videos now, my YouTube channel, you just got to type in Martin Silva Fitness on YouTube and you'll find me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Loads of exercise videos in there, and some good videos in general to motivate you and to teach you how to do things correctly. Also, if you could please give me a rating and review on iTunes or Spotify. But iTunes is the one really to help it grow more. If you could go over to iTunes and give me a rating and review, that would be a massive help, because it really puts the podcast on the radar by getting those reviews in. And it's kind of tough to get enough to keep up with the other podcasts nowadays. A lot of competition, so if you can, that would be great. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, which you probably have, please subscribe, because you'll get notifications as to when my next podcast episodes are launched. And I interviewed Elle Russ, who is one of the co-hosts on the Primal Blueprint podcast, which is one of the leading health and fitness podcasts on the planet. She is a plethora of knowledge, and she is a master when it comes to thyroid metabolism. And for anyone out there who just wants to, and you want to learn about the paleo diet, because she is a massive advocate of that. And I, to be honest, I mean, a lot of the foods I eat are paleo-based, if you like. I don't like to title it a diet. For me, it's just a lifestyle, so just eating those kind of foods for me does work, right? So the paleo diet is essentially, what we evolved eating. So fruit, veg, some fruit, lots of vegetables, and good quality animal source proteins. So honestly, it's a great podcast episode. She talks about everything from, where she was on the brink of, literally crumbling and breaking point with the issues she was getting with the thyroid and health issues, and now she's managed to turn it around, and she's a co-host on a podcast. She's written a book, an amazing book. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. That's going to be the next episode. And yeah, love you and leave you. Hope that was helpful. Be sure to watch the videos linked in the show notes, and yeah, be sure to tell your friends about this podcast as well. Sorry about that. Too much plugging going on there. Thanks for listening, folks. Have a great day.